This is the Hummer EV SUV, and it is by far the stupidest vehicle I have ever reviewed. I am actually very shocked that I managed to get my hands on a vehicle like this, because in case you didn't know, the sticker price of this is over $100,000. This is the most expensive vehicle I have ever touched. Previously, that record was held by the Model X Long Range that I test drove back in Charlotte, North Carolina, and now it's this. And I have to admit, out of all the cars out there, I think this is one of the stupidest ones I have ever seen and reviewed. The reason why I'm saying this is kind of stupid is because this is one of those cars where you have to have more money than brain cells in order to justify buying, because, well, when you take a look at the numbers on paper and the demographic this cater towards, A, you have to be a very specific person to want a vehicle like this, and B, you have to have more money than brain cells to buy this. It's effectively a supercar SUV or something like that. You see, supercars don't exactly have to be these crazy top speed challenging race cars. They can also be off-roader vehicles like this. The reason why a vehicle like this exists in the first place is because GM's Ultium platform. They wanted to demonstrate what it was capable of, and so they came out with first the Hummer pickup truck and then this, the SUV version, both of which are equally stupid. And so instead of giving you your normal tour of this vehicle, I'm going to go over all of the things that make this, in theory, a capable off-roader SUV, though we're going to dive into that a little more. Not necessarily am I off-roading this. This is a $100,000 vehicle that is for sale on the lot here at Keweenaw Chevrolet. So yeah, I'm not exactly going to take this thing off-road. In fact, I got to be careful not to scratch this. Let's get into the spec dump first, and then I'll start the tour.
Just so you guys know, I have done the spec research actually in 2025 and not 2024. It's because I've been so busy to the point where I haven't been able to finish this review. So I might be reading off of 2025 specs and not 2024, but I don't think they changed, given that at least I haven't heard they made any major updates to the Hummer EV. The only updates I can think of are maybe like paint options, something like that. Either way, let's get into the spec dump. Starting off with the 2X trim. This is a dual motor system that produces 570 horsepower and somehow 7,400 pound-feet of torque. I'm a little skeptical on the torque figures that GM has on their website, but okay, I guess you could take their word for it. Maybe or maybe not. I don't know. I'll leave that for you to decide. With a 180 kilowatt hour battery pack, it can travel up to 303 miles according to the EPA. That's an averaging about 1.6 miles per kilowatt hour. Yeah, this isn't a particularly efficient vehicle. I think this is less efficient than the Silverado EV I recently reviewed. It has a 19.2 kilowatt AC onboard charger. That's 240 volts via 80 amps. It can charge up to 350 kilowatts on the 800 volt architecture. I should let you know that the battery normally operates in the 400 volt class. And that's because that's what the Hummer actually operates at. It's in the 400 volt class. But when you plug it into a 800 volt charger, in theory, it actually just boosts the voltage. It just reconfigures the battery pack to boost the voltage to the 800 volt class. It's weird, but I thought I'd let you know about that. And I found a max towing capacity of around 7,500 pounds. Moving up to the 3X option, we now upgrade to a tri-motor system. This is one motor in the front, two in the rear. This system produces up to 830 horsepower and a whole whopping 11,500 pound-feet of torque. Again, this number seems very unrealistic to me, but this is what I found on their website. And somehow, despite having the same battery pack and arguably more weight added to the vehicle, it can actually travel up to 314 miles estimated by the EPA, averaging 1.7 miles per kilowatt hour. Again, I am very confused with the specs that they are reporting, but this is what I found online. And again, this features the same 19.2 kilowatt AC onboard charger, and because it's the same battery pack, it'll also charge up to 350 kilowatts on the 800 volt class. Again, same tow rating at 7,500 pounds. In terms of our pricing structure, we have the 2X starting at $98,845 MSRP, and the 3X starts at $106,945 MSRP. Today's tester is the 3X trim, so that's going to start at $106,945 MSRP, and the options we have included on this are the 22-inch Grazen wheels with some inserts, according to the window sticker. This is an additional $4,495. The void black paint is an additional $495. Finally, we have the front license plate bracket at $40. And once you add the destination fee of $2,295, our tester comes in at $114,270 MSRP as equipped.
Starting off at the front of the vehicle, once again, we always talk about general design, and of course, this thing it's so recognizable just driving down the road. If you're one of those attention getters, this is one of the perfect vehicles for you because it's big, it's brawny, it's extremely wide, just like traditional Hummers. This carries out the tradition of just being absolutely enormous. And there's a lot of special design styling cues related to this particular vehicle, like the headlights and slash turn signals, for example. You might notice that they actually form a bit of an H, at least the fixed lights. We got the light bar as well with the illuminated Hummer EV logo right here. And then of course, it being an electric vehicle, it doesn't really need much of a grille. It only needs basically whatever is right here for the little air intake that it needs. But then we also have another advantage of electric vehicles, which finally, this is the first GM vehicle that I'm reviewing that actually has this function. It has a frunk. Now, this is probably more important in the pickup truck version compared to the SUV because the SUV already has an enclosed cargo space, but you want another enclosed cargo space? Well, guess what? This is carried over. It's relatively decently sized, though you might have noticed there's a couple bags in here with the Hummer EV on it. What is that for? It's to take the roof off. Yeah, you heard me right. It's to take the roof off. Yeah, the roof here does actually come off. There's a bunch of levers in here that you can twist, and you can remove these panels. I'm not going to do that because, again, $100,000 vehicle. I'd like to not damage it if at all possible. You want demonstrations on how to remove the roof, you can watch all other sorts of YouTube videos about this thing. But yeah, this does have a removable roof. Above my head is a panel, and there's 3 other panels that you can remove as well. In fact, if you're willing to take out a tool, you can actually remove the centerpiece here as well. I think that'll take us to the side of this vehicle where, yes, it's absolutely massive. This is a large SUV, sticking to the Hummer tradition after all. Though there's one thing I wanted to demonstrate. It's this vehicle's air suspension. See, because this is supposed to be some off-roader supercar, they gave this a very wide range of travel. We're currently in its lowest ride height right now. I'm going to move this to its absolute highest ride height possible. It took a while, but now we're at its highest ride height. This is what they call extract mode. It's designed for off-roading only. In fact, when you put it into extract mode, you first have to select the terrain drive mode in order to even access extract mode. And then you're speed limited to 12 miles an hour. So yeah, it's not intended that you drive around in extract mode like this, unless you're doing some serious off-roading. And now we come here to the charge port because, of course, I've been mentioning this as an EV. And this is one of the most interesting things about this supercar off-roader thing. They chose it to be an electric vehicle. And so, instead of a gas port, it has a charge port. Now, unfortunately, if you guys actually watch this channel and aren't just here for the Hummer, you might know that I really hate this charge port design, which thankfully, recently, GM just got supercharger access with via an adapter at the moment, so they can use superchargers now, despite that the superchargers use an entirely different plug that is better in literally every single category. But I digress. We still have a problem where these vehicles are still using the CCS Type 1 standard here in North America, which sucks so much. But either way, here's your charging stats, since I'm a big EV nerd and such. If I recall, despite the battery pack size in here being around like 200-ish kilowatt hours or something like that, this unfortunately still only has like a 48 amp onboard charger. So when you're AC charging, like so, you're stuck at 48 amps, and that'll take quite a long time to charge a battery this big, actually. Supposedly, newer models are supposed to have an 80 amp onboard charger. It's just GM couldn't get one sourced in time for the production of this vehicle. So at the moment, this still has a 48 amp onboard charger, and I don't know if newer Hummer EVs will actually have said 80 amp onboard charger, so you can charge this massive battery pack relatively quickly overnight. But that's AC charging. That's just AC charging that's a bit limited. The other method of charging is quite insane, actually. When you take this to a DC charging station, because this thing has some interesting technology where if you plug this into a DC charger, it'll literally change the wiring of the battery pack so it can boost the voltage, allowing you to achieve 350 kilowatt charging, which is absolutely insane. I mean, considering the size of the battery pack being around like 200-ish kilowatt hours or somewhere in the neighborhood of that, that's over double the size of the majority of electric vehicle battery packs out there that you'll find in EVs today. And so yeah, you're gonna want that 350 kilowatts in order to charge this thing quickly. In fact, actually, I believe this battery pack will technically charge even faster than 350. It's just, those are the stations we have in the ground. We don't have any faster stations than 350 kilowatts. And then we finally make our way to the rear of the vehicle, where we discuss taillights, because I obsess over them and there's something about them that drives me absolutely mad. So for one, these are 100% LED taillights. That's step one of actually having a proper set of taillights. These are all 100% LED, brake light, turn signal, and reverse light. They're all LED illuminated. And here's the problem. Brake lights and the turn signals are supposed to be separate bulbs. Brake light should always be red, turn signal should always be amber. But for whatever stupid reason, automakers just decide, nope, let's combine the brake light and the turn signal. It adds some ambiguity. It's not smart design, but they do it anyway. Once again, GM still has to fix that. They should never be the same bulb. And then while I'm back here, I should discuss another quirk about the Hummer EV SUV. 1 second. Yeah, that's right. The rear window can slide down like that. Isn't that pretty cool? Except that's not exactly a great way to put your stuff in the back of this cargo area. So you might notice, considering that there's a full-size spare tire here, yes, it is literally a full-size spare. How the heck do you open this thing? Because if you look around, you might not actually notice any grab handle or anything like that. Well, here's how you open it. There's a little button right here underneath the taillight that you press, and that'll swing out the door just like that. And this is the point in time where we now talk about cargo area and such. So, it has one. It doesn't feel very spacious considering the massive size of this vehicle. That's because a lot of what's gone into, especially the height of this load floor here, you might notice it's actually a very high load floor, and this is as low as I can get the vehicle to go. I've got it in easy entry and exit mode. I can't get it any lower, so I hope that you don't have any humongous heavy items that you're going to put back here, because getting them up here is going to be a bit of a challenge. But in terms of your cargo area, I mean, it's relatively okay size. I kind of wish that there was a third row available for this. This is only a 2-row vehicle, especially considering the massive size of this. It'd be nice if you could take another 3 more friends along for your off-roading adventures in your supercar. Yeah, that's not an option on this, unfortunately. This is a 2-row vehicle only, and you're going to have to deal with that. But if this amount of cargo space isn't enough for you, well, there's a couple other options, like folding down the seats. There's a couple buttons right here. That'll just drop the cargo area like that. As long as you got long but not tall items, you should actually be okay. This is me basically trying to spread out, showcase the cargo area. I'm 5'8" for reference. But despite that those buttons will lower the seats, they will not actually raise them. So you are going to have to manually raise them up yourself. Typically I do a door close thing, except because of how I have to frame this shot, the camera is in the way of the door, so I can't close it without knocking over my camera. Oh, and then we gotta touch on underfloor storage. Yes, there's underfloor storage. It's not a lot. Yeah, there's not a lot underneath here, and that's because mostly what's under here is mostly batteries. All right, let's now make your way inside the Hummer EV SUV and give you a tour of the many quirks that are on the inside of it. This is, once again, GMC's standard key fob. I'm not particularly a fan of this because of all the hard plasticky buttons. I prefer a softer rubbery button, and they didn't really do much in terms of a special edition. I mean, they did put Hummer EV on this key itself. Nothing really more than that. But it also features remote start, you might have noticed. All you have to do is lock the vehicle twice and then it'll remote start the Hummer EV, I guess. Wanted to show you the lighting animations as well, because it has a couple light animations for when you walk up and greet it. All I have to do is unlock it. That locks it again. I'm surprised that it's not doing its light dance. Maybe there's something else to it. I don't know. Light dance isn't working. I thought it had a separate light dance aside from the turn signal flashing. Let's actually get in. So this, once again, has GM's standard push to lock and unlock and such. Yeah, the assist step right there makes getting in and out pretty easy, especially considering the massive size of this vehicle. And once you step inside the Hummer to turn it on, this actually is one of the few Ultium vehicles out there that still uses a traditional push button to turn it on and off. I say this because, well, obviously the truck version of this, and actually, believe it or not, the Honda Prologue and the Acura ZDX, those are both actually Ultium vehicles. They're not actual Honda vehicles. They also have this exact button as well, funny enough. But yeah, to turn it on, you just put your foot on the brake and push the button, just like you typically start a car. All right, so I'm first going to start off a tour of the interior with the materials in here, and they're kind of nice, actually. I mean, there's not really much for leather in here. This is all mostly cloths and such. I mean, okay, this seat is actually leather, but the rest of the materials in here, it's not really leather because, once again, this is supposed to be a big, brawny, off-roading, tough SUV. Leather upholstery and such, that's nice luxury stuff. We need to be tough. And so we got this interesting fabric material choice here, which... it's soft. It's okay. Got a lot of plastics around. This door handle, I can't tell if it's real aluminum or not. And while we're here at the door, I guess that'll take us to the windows test, where unfortunately this does not do very well from just looking at the buttons here. So let's see. We have auto down. We have auto down. Really, GM? $100,000 and not even the driver's window does auto up? That's a shame. That's a real shame, GM. Come on, $100,000 and no auto up windows. What type of cost cutting is this? Come on. Oh, we have an interesting H shape here, climate vent. You'll actually notice this theme throughout the rest of the vehicle, along with your standard electronic parking brake and various other vehicle functions like popping the frunk and opening the rear door. You also have lane keep assist, and this button here, funny enough, we'll roll down all of the windows, including the rear window back there. Unfortunately, it will not raise them. You have to use the switches and roll them all up, including this switch right here. That's what controls the rear window. Not sure what this is. What is this button? I gotta know, actually. Turn green. No idea what this plug button is. I'll have to do some more research on that, actually. And then your interior cabin lighting controls right there. Coming to the steering wheel, very nicely leather wrapped. And you might notice with this little bar icon and that piece right there, yes, this does have Super Cruise. I believe it's standard on Hummer EV. And this will have your typically standard steering wheel you'll find in GM pickup trucks, except for a future vehicle I'm going to review. And this layout I do prefer. I'm grateful that they gave me a D-pad, sort of a D-pad. I mean, these buttons here actually push, but then you have this little toggle switch right here to control various things. And you can cycle through things like your tire pressure, your driver's assistance, and then other off-road data and such, along with energy usage. This is an electric vehicle after all. Suspension, travel, this, again, this is like an off-roader supercars, so you're gonna get a lot of data out of this thing. Your following distance thing, because I would assume this would have adaptive cruise control. Oh, right, of course it does. It's Super Cruise. Then you have the Super Cruise button right here, which obviously is not going to work at the moment because we need to be driving for that. And this steering wheel is heated. The button's just over here. And then you got your stocks with your headlight controls and your turn signals and high beams, and then your wiper stock right there. Obviously, start stop button. And then, because this is based off of the truck as well, you can tow with this, and this does have a trailer brake function right here, where you can control the gain here as well. The rest of the materials across the cabin, it's again that cloth stuff along with this. There's no way this is aluminum. This is definitely plastic, though this trim piece here is aluminum. You might notice this is a very vertical dashboard. It literally is vertical. You'll also find your other H-styled climate vents because, again, Hummer, H, interesting themes. In fact, actually, if you look at the speaker grills down there, you might notice there's actually a bit of an interesting pattern. It's supposed to be a pattern of the moon. I guess that'll take us to interior storage, where we got this little spot right here to hold a phone or something. But then you can open this up and reveal quite a decent amount of storage. Obviously, you can remove that tray to reveal even deeper storage. You'll have a 12-volt outlet right there, cup holders right there, side by side. You'll have a little spot right here to stick a phone with a couple of charging ports there, or you can just, well, use the wireless charger. There we go, now it's charging. Door pockets are basically big enough to hold a water bottle right here or something like that, and there's not really much in terms of door storage except for drinks. You'll also have a center pass-through right here with some more moon graphics for the cargo liners. And then obviously that center pass-through and all the storage in here is made possible via an electronic shifter. So the way this works is rather simple. It's just you push this side button here to go into drive, you pull it back. For neutral, you go partially forward. Reverse, you go all the way forward, where you can see your backup camera and such. And then for park, you just push P. Behind that, you'll find your drive mode selection dial, where you have quite a few different options in terms of drive modes. So starting off in here, we got the My mode and such, which is fully customizable. You'll get off-road, terrain. I have no idea what the difference is. Tow haul, because of course this is a brawny SUV that's supposed to be able to tow, and a normal drive mode as well. And then on this dial, you'll also find various other things, like this is what will control your ride height suspension. And then actually a unique thing about this vehicle, crab walk. Because this has rear wheel steering, you can have all of the wheels turn the same direction and effectively get this thing to crab walk at about 10 degrees left and right. And then what's this button here? It's actually rather interesting. You push it, and what's supposed to happen is an email is supposed to pop up. Oh, the wrong screen. It pops up here. What will happen is an email will pop up here, and supposedly what you're supposed to do is submit cool ideas of what improvements can be made to this vehicle, and you're supposed to email them to that email. We also have our piano keys right here with a typical suite of GM truck stuff. Again, this is where you'll find the heated steering wheel. You'll have your traction control off button, and then this is also a secret trick here with this button. If you tap this twice, maybe I need my foot on the brake. Let's do that. We have watts to freedom, aka WTF mode. Supposedly that engages watts to freedom, which is their version of launch control in this thing, which, yeah, this thing will do 0 to 60 in like 3.5-ish seconds around there. So yeah, it's called watts to freedom, or WTF. You'll find your hazards here along with your parking sensor deactivation button in case you're towing. And then supposedly this has an automatic parallel parking function. Okay, not just parallel parking, but also bay parking as well. If you happen to be one of those people who can't park because this thing is so massive, we'll just have your $100,000 vehicle park itself. No biggie. Then we have our climate control setup right here, where it's again laid out in the same way as the piano key style right here. You'll also find interesting heated and ventilated seat controls, where you first have to activate the button, then it'll pull out this menu and such. That's how these work. Like, for example, your zones, same style right here. You just activate your zones right here, and it'll give you your different zone controls. And of course, it's tri-zone fully automatic, emphasis on third zone being in the back seat. And that'll take us to our audio system, where of course GM's going to put their fanciest Bose premium audio in this $100,000 SUV. So let's take a sample. a bit lacking in the bass for some reason. Do I have to go into the EQ and fix that? I would have thought that this would have had better bass, but no, it's not. I mean, it's fairly balanced. It's not awful, but there's EQ. No, that's its fully balanced mode. Huh. I'm sure there's a way to dial in the system and such. I'm not going to focus heavily on that. Thankfully, unlike the other Altium vehicles that I reviewed, this is actually, well, this and the Hummer EV pickup. Okay, yeah, the Honda products as well. These are the only Altium vehicles that feature Apple CarPlay. Thank you. I love Apple CarPlay because unfortunately the navigation, despite that it's Google Maps, which is not bad by any means, if you prefer it, I do not prefer Google Maps because it never takes me to where I want it to take me. And that is why I use Apple Maps. I like having access to Apple Maps, and unfortunately the Blazer EVs over there and the Silverado EV RST right there, I can't use Apple Maps on the display like this. Yeah, thank you for fixing that problem. Now we have CarPlay in this. Unfortunately, they removed it in those other vehicles, which is extremely frustrating if you're an Apple user like myself. But other than that, it's pretty much mostly Google services after that. Like, for example, your navigation. Once again, it's Google Maps. Let's review some privacy policy stuff. It'll be reset anyways. Oh, you can download offline maps as well. Just give me the map. Give me the map! Thank you. You might notice M26 here. Why is it green? It's because it's pre-mapped for Super Cruise. So that's one benefit to using this navigation. It'll tell you where Super Cruise works as well. Though, again, I'm not particularly a fan of Google Maps because its general reliability on getting me from point A to point B, it's bad. It's actually bad. That's why I use Apple Maps. And because this is an electric vehicle, let's see, how's the route planner in this? I'm very curious. Let's select, currently undergoing a hurricane at the moment. So yeah, you notice we can't get there on one charge. In fact, actually it's displaying end of battery range right near Green Bay. So we're obviously going to need to add charging stops. So let's do that. Wow, that was actually a relatively quick planning, except, oh boy, this Crivets charger, it's not a fast charger, and for whatever reason, all Altium route planners are taking me to Crivets, and that's a very slow charger. And you might have noticed 2 hours and 16 minutes. That's because the battery is so huge. So when you go to a slow charger, it's going to take a while to charge up. In-charge energy. Never heard of that charger. That must be a new one. Then finally you get into Electrify America, where you can do roughly 18-minute charges because, again, 350 kilowatt charging. But wow, these charge times, hour and 13 minutes, hour and 23 minutes. That's just because of how big this battery is. You need that much time. Yeah, it takes a while to charge this thing up because of how massive this battery is. But then other features of the system, obviously we have this energy menu here where it can control things like charging and such, including battery preconditioning, where you can start preconditioning manually like that, or it'll also automatically precondition when you put in a destination as well. You'll also have a whole slew of cameras right here because GM likes to put a lot of cameras in their big vehicles because it's hard to see out of them. You'll even get some camera views underneath the vehicle. Where is that? That's odd. I can't find the cameras underneath the vehicle. Could have swore there was some, but oh well. And then because it's based off the truck, you'll also get their trailering app as well, where you can add and save different trailer profiles as well. And other than that, that'll basically conclude this infotainment system. Again, you'll have some various controls up here, like your OnStar suite, your dome lighting, and that's for the rear window and such. Yeah, that'll pretty much wrap up the front of this interior. Oh, the glove box. Right, I keep forgetting it. It's damped. It's not lined with felt. Coming to the back seat once again. Here's a closer look at that moon graphic on the speaker grills. The vehicle's no longer an entry exit, so thank goodness it has this step here to help you get in. And pardon my junk right here that I forgot to toss in the back. Nice assist grip. Materials carry over, thank goodness. Oh, you even get a mechanical lock right here. The front doors don't have that for whatever reason. And here's the seat set for my seating position. I've got my handspan of knee space left, so it's fairly decent, though. We'll talk about that in a sec. In terms of the door, yeah, materials carry over. You got a cup holder here, along with another cup holder down here, actually, for a bigger water bottle and such. Interesting place to put a tweeter. Like, they give you a nice looking speaker grill here, but then for the tweeter, they give you this abomination. That's a bit interesting. Nice that they give you clear glass roof panels, though. These are so heavily tinted that you're not really going to be able to see out of them. But once again, these panels are removable. All you have to do is just pull some of these levers out, and then you can store these in the front. You do have a center armrest here with some cup holders. Floor is also not perfectly flat. There's the slightest hump right here too. That's interesting. Because again, this is an electric vehicle. It doesn't need it. But then you also have various amenities like here. Like again, this is your third zone for your tri-zone climate control. You have heated seats, 3-stage, a couple USB ports, one being type A, the other type C, and then some climate vents, and then a tiny little storage nook here. And then at the very bottom of this, which is hard to get on camera, you have a standard NEMA 515 household style outlet. Both seats have mat pockets, and then
let me slide over here. Whoa. So yeah, with the seat all the way back, my knees are touching. And again, I'm 5'8". Let's hope your front passenger does not slide the seat all the way back like this. This is a bit claustrophobic if this is how you have to sit. Driving the Hummer EV. I want to take this out in that parking lot first. Low speed calibration's pretty good. So the thing I want to try out is crab walk, because you're not going to find any other vehicles that can let you drive sideways. Okay, so crab walk is enabled. Why aren't we crab walking? There we go. Driving sideways. So you can only steer so far before it eventually begins to turn again. Ah, dang it, didn't time the red light just right. Wow, she boogies. Let's see, how's Super Cruise? I don't know if it's either of the vehicles themselves or if it's GM just not mapping the roads properly, but sometimes Super Cruise doesn't do a good job when it comes to keeping us steady within the lane lines. There's our region braking. Yeah, we're just gonna avoid that little construction zone there and head around here. She does feel hefty. I mean, what does this thing weigh? Like around 8,000, 9,000 pounds, somewhere in there? Yeah, she leans, I can feel it. All right, let's turn around up here and figure out why WTF mode is not activating. There we go. All right, so it's on standby now. Woo! How is it legal for an SUV this big to go that fast? That was insane. So for the most part, I'd say this vehicle effectively drives like a really big tank that can happen to go from 0 to 60 extremely quickly. I'm surprised they don't provide a quick way to turn that sound off. Oh, that's because Watts to Freedom is still engaged. At this point, I don't really have much left to say about the driving experience of this. So let's go take it to the charging station and see what she'll pull at. Less than 50%. Be nice if the car actually displayed what percent we're at. I don't like how it just gives you this bar like a gas tank. And welcome back to the charge point station, where we have a EV that will accept 380 kilowatts, a warmed up battery, and unfortunately this thing is not going to completely showcase what this vehicle is capable of, but it's the best we got in town. So all right, charge point card. CCS type 1. Get in there. There we go. What a heavy cable. Vehicle's latched on. What are we gonna pull? I hope we preconditioned long enough. Charger clicked. No beep just yet. There we go. Okay, now we're ramping up. Where are we gonna pull? Whoop. So the battery must still be cold. Need to fire up the other cabinet over there, or? So we are basically pegged at 69 kilowatts. This thing should be doing double that. Fans ripping on this. What about the other? Oh, the module's active in this one too. So yeah, battery just must be cold because we're only at 40%. We should be doing the... I hate these screens. No. No. These screens suck. Thank you. Yeah, we're only at 48 or 40% and doing 69, 70 kilowatts. We're doing the full 125. What's wrong? It's a cold one. It's 51 degrees. Batteries are typically happier around 70 to 80 degrees. That's why we're charging slower than we should be. Well, there's that. Starting off under the hood, in terms of our power figures, well, as I mentioned in the spec dump, a lot of those numbers are kind of unbelievable, but it's obviously enough to get a 10 out of 10 on my scale. In terms of range, it's enough to get an 8 out of 10. Drivetrain, I actually have to give it the full 10 out of 10 because not only does it come standard with a 4-wheel drive system, no matter if you choose dual motor or tri-motor, it's standard 4-wheel drive, but also you get locking differentials and various other off-roading equipment. You also get an interesting 4-wheel steering system that enables grab walk. Yeah, this drivetrain system is so intricate, it gets the full 10 out of 10 for its amazing functionality, depending on what you think in terms of its reliability. 0 to 60 is absolutely nuts and crazy on this thing when you activate WTF mode, and it gets a full 10 out of 10. And in terms of charging, in theory, it should get a full 10 out of 10. The problem is the charge port that it has. See, 350 kilowatts and 80 amps should give it the full 10 out of 10. The problem is the CCS charge port that it has, and so I have to dock it 2 points, giving it an 8 out of 10, bringing us to a total of 46 out of 50. Next up in the weekend categories, in terms of styling, it has a very bold and masculine and prominent styling where if you're into that, you're obviously going to like it, and if you're not, like me, you're obviously going to hate it. So I'm giving it an average 5 out of 10. In terms of visibility, it is terrible in this vehicle, and while it's not completely awful, let's be real, the camera system that it has helps out a lot. You're going to want to use that all the time because the vehicle is wide, so seeing side to side is quite difficult. There's basically no rear visibility with the spare tire in the way, and the hood is so tall it affects your forward visibility. I'm forced to give it no more than a 3 out of 10. It's bad. And because this is a 9,000 pound-ish SUV, it's not going to do well in terms of handling either, and it gets a 3 out of 10. Fun factor is extremely high. When you activate WTF mode, you get the amazing 0 to 60. This thing can also crab walk. You can't say that about so many other vehicles. And just in general, it's made for fun, and I actually have to give it a 7 out of 10. Cool factor, however, is a mixed bag of opinions, because on one hand, the people that like this really like it a lot and think it is the coolest vehicle in the world. However, for me, it is actually a bit offensive in the space that it occupies, because considering the terrible efficiency and the huge battery pack, and in general, it kind of stands against everything the electric vehicle is for, in my opinion. The people who like it are going to like it a lot, and the people who hate it are going to hate it a lot. I'm giving it an average 5 out of 10, bringing us to a total of 23 out of 50. And for the daily categories, in terms of features, this thing is very, very well equipped, and as a result, I'm giving it an 8 out of 10. It's quite impressive. There's nothing really game-changing or groundbreaking that this has that others don't. It doesn't really bring much that's new to the table, so that's why I'm docking it a few extra points for that reason. The air suspension helps this thing be comfortable enough, but only enough to give it a 5 out of 10. And in terms of quality, the material's not exactly the nicest quality for the price tag, though I will say, the way it is put together, it is enough to give it a 5 out of 10. In terms of practicality, well, it is a big SUV, though there's a lot of points that I have to dock it for. For one, despite how big it is, there's no third row. The load floor for all of the cargo area is extremely high off the ground. And then you have this car's very bad history when it comes to reliability, particularly in the drivetrain. Yes, the drivetrain might be extremely capable, but it is known on the internet for braking all the time. And as a result, it docks a lot of points out of that. And I can't really give it that many more points in terms of efficiency because, again, this vehicle is very inefficient. I can only give it a 4 out of 10. Finally, value. Honestly, this is the worst value car, and you should not buy it for, well, day-to-day use and such. Really, the whole purpose of this vehicle is just to demonstrate what GM can do with the electric platform, and obviously it comes in at a very, very expensive price tag. And if you happen to pay attention to values on the market, yeah, the resale value is not very great. Okay, enough rambling. I'm just going to give it the score. It's a 1 out of 10. It's a very bad value, and most buyers who buy this vehicle know it is a bad value. This brings the daily categories to a total of 23 out of 50. Added up, you get 92 out of 150, which is not the worst I've ever scored, but certainly not the best. I mean, I'm comparing it to Chevrolet EV pickup, so obviously that's going to be more practical and it's going to get more points. I'm actually surprised that it manages to do better better in terms of, well, the SUV space that GM's Ultium platform has to offer, because, I mean, I reviewed the Equinox and the Blazer, and those have lower scores, but that's because they don't have anything crazy or intricate or anything cooler than the Hummer EV SUV. And while you might notice, yes, well, actually, I'm surprised the Equinox does worse than daily categories than the Hummer EV, which is a bit odd. The Blazer EV is certainly the more daily friendly, but if you take a look at the weekend categories, the Hummer is just more capable under the hood and certainly has a higher cool factor, other than, why does the Blazer have a higher weekend score than I don't know. Again, this is subjective stuff. Anywho, I guess that's going to wrap up my review. In terms of my general thoughts on this SUV, I personally am not a fan of it. It goes against everything I stand for when it comes to trying to report how amazing electric vehicles are. Again, it's inefficient, it has a massive battery pack, and yada yada yada. I guess this is where the score places it on the cardboard. Thank you for watching. Do me a favor and interact with the stuff below. My name is Alpha DeWolf, Random Alpha, signing out.